Hello and welcome to the Codec Moments podcast. I'm Andy Brown, and joining me today, as ever, are the lovely Ali Cornwolf.
Hello.
Hello, and the fabulous Dr. Matthew Holt.
Hello.
I'm liking the look. We've all got this slightly dishevelled, long hair, bit more beard than usual. Yeah,
desperately in need of a haircut.
Yep, still social distancing. All that talk of having more time to put out more podcasts was a little bit optimistic, wasn't it, boys?
Just a tiny bit.
Yeah. I think most people are not particularly busy working from home and stuff, but I'm flat out. And then I get sick of my office. I'm like, no, I'm off.
You know what? I think that's probably the worst part of it, actually. It's not the flat out at work. It's the thought of having to spend another couple of hours in the same room and feel like you've never left it.
Yep.
For an entire week, usually.
You see, this is how I am all the time. This is how I always feel when it comes to recording these things.
You're accustomed to it, though. You've got that little room and you live in it.
This is
we're used
box.
To the outside of these rooms.
Yeah, definitely. Well, okay. So we're here today to talk about shiny new things. And by that, we mean the upcoming next generation console releases. Little bit of, so are we going to go with some sensible insights, or are we just going to go with that crazy wild speculation?
The latter.
Yay!
Because none of us have actually researched anything seriously, so we don't know a great deal anyway, so let's just make it up.
Brilliant.
In fact, that seems to be what my news feed is most of the time anyway. Just made up about the new consoles to try and get people to look. So we'll also think of a really insightful, wrong title for the podcast that will garner hits for us.
Yeah, I heard that PS5 is going to have an R2-D2 style holographic imager.
You won't believe the stuff the new consoles can do. Yeah, that's the name of the podcast.
No, hold on. To make it like truly BuzzFeed, we've got to go, you won't believe number 4.
Yeah.
All right, well, great episode. Thanks very much. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, there is.
Who wants to kick off then? Who's actually got some interesting or useful insights as opposed to my nonsense?
I guess the one thing that's standing out, definitely from an Xbox point of view, Matt, as my counterpart from the PlayStation corner, you can chime in. But if with the Xbox, you actually are getting some games, not all of them, but some games that are cross-generation. They're not upscaling them, are they? But they're doing something like that. Basically, if you play it on the Series X, you get the enhanced graphics pack installed or something.
It's like you get the Series X version if you've got the Xbox One version. It's a little bit like what they did with crossplay at the turn of the last generation, but much more considered and probably a lot more useful. Mm-hmm. It's arguably the one feature I actually want Sony to announce, because there's a lot of games coming probably over the next 4 or 5 months that people are going to pick up on the current generation and then trade into a new console and then suddenly have to buy the game again, or even hold off buying because you want it on the next generation. It's going to be a bit tricky to manage, and I think it's a great idea. I
mean, this is smart delivery, isn't it? I think they've called it.
That's the name of it.
And it's, for me, this is exactly the podcast we did a couple of years ago about the UWP, This is UWP. This is the actual final proper implementation.
This is the result of it.
Yeah, so we've already seen the Xbox games that will play on the PC, and now we're getting the basically what I'm envisaging based on this UWP smart delivery thing is you'll buy one copy of the game and it'll run on what you put it in, and it'll give you the optimized version for that console.
Yeah, because I think what they've said as well is with the smart delivery and whatnot is that even current gen games, that they, as far as I'm aware, pretty much everything from this generation will work on the Series X, and it will do its best to deliver it at its best that it can. So, like they're doing at the minute with the 360 games where they're coming on and they're upscaling them to 4K where possible. As far as I'm aware, the Series X has got that all built in natively, and it will just take anything you throw at it.
Yeah, I think the PS4 has as well for its backwards compatibility, but it's the the forwards compatibility, which I think they've got right. And we've heard nothing from the other console camp to say, oh, yeah, we're going to offer the same kind of service. It might be a big loss if they don't.
And I've been playing my Xbox a bit more recently because don't tell my boss, it happens to be sat in my office. Makes it easier. But I'll be honest, the smart delivery is really exciting because the prospect of having to buy multiple versions of games across different console generations is a bit jarring. We've seen that already, and I don't necessarily want to buy a game now knowing that a better version of it's going to come along in 9 months, 6 months. Well, not now, but a bit further down the line. Cyberpunk. I'm thinking Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I was going to say everybody already knows. Well, that's coming in September to current gen, and then the next gen version will be available, is what they've said, pretty much when the next gen consoles come out. So there could potentially be only best case, it could be a month between the two, and you're going to hold off, aren't you, if you know that's the case? Because by the time that releases, we should know the console release dates.
Yeah,
and
so for something like Cyberpunk, which is out September.
Yeah.
So that might be a month, maybe a little bit more, if we're looking at a November, December release date, which is the usual slot.
Well, it's the usual, but this probably drags us slightly onto the one of the points I picked up in the last few days. Dirt 5 got announced a few days before we recorded this.
Yep.
And probably a slip of marketing rather than anything else, probably nothing to hang your hat on. But they have said it's coming in October, and it's coming in October for new generation, current generation.
Well, I think I
don't know whether it's just them trying to encompass the lot and say, oh yeah, you'll get it in October, or whether they've kind of almost hinted, new consoles are coming then as well.
Personally, I don't think so. I think that the original messaging we've had was kind of holidays 2020. I know that Xbox then kind of said Thanksgiving, and they've walked that back to holidays 2020 again. So I think we're looking at November, December. And what I think this is about is it may be one of the first games to come with the smart delivery.
Possibly. I think Cyberpunk's going to be your first one.
Yeah, no, I get one of the first. I'm not, not the first, but they're pushing it out there as well. You're going to be able to buy your next gen version now, even though the consoles aren't out. That's I think it's marketing. I'm not sure we should read too much into it.
Oh no,
I think the game's coming in October.
There's nothing to absolutely nail that's when it's going to be. Just interesting use of phrasing and the way they've done it.
Yes, definitely. And I think at the minute, Sony have been a little bit more quiet than Xbox, depending on, like, they did their controller, and then Xbox did that really random third-party briefing thing last week, which was, to be fair, a bit rubbish. And you got no gameplay, even though they said you were getting gameplay for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I think was just a ploy to get everyone to watch it. But then Sony, not necessarily Sony, but then Unreal released that tech demo on the PS5, which I think was more impressive than anything else that we saw from the other stuff. Because I wasn't that, I watched it, but it wasn't all that. And I think that was more interesting than the actual Xbox whole briefing.
I thought that the whole Unreal Engine 5 piece was phenomenal, what the two guys were talking through, what it's doing. How that actually translates into games is yet to be seen, but you think of what they've done with the Unreal Engine 4 through this generation and what it looks like now. And if it's the starting position is what we saw in that tech demo. And the nice thing is it works across every platform in a similar way. So just because they were using PS5 hardware, you get the distinct impression it'd be the same on the Series X, probably slightly better on PC because it'll have a bit more power to chuck on it if you've got a high-end machine. But that's supremely impressive for 6 months before the next one's come out.
One of the things that I took from it was, you'll have to correct me if I misinterpreted this, but basically, the bit where she's kind of going through the little bit of a valley or the cave or whatever it is. And they said something about the fact that the audio is now smart in a way. I'm kind of probably simplifying it, that basically the audio will learn the environment it's in and reverberate accordingly. That's roughly what they said, and different things, because they were going into about how many triangles are in it or pixels and things.
Yeah, because they pull it
and
back.
then when the bats flew through, they were on about how it's all kind of smarter delivered and it like pings off the environment.
So it's almost calculated on the fly based on the geometry and everything else.
Yeah.
That's quite cool.
Which is lovely. It's lovely. I mean, coupled with any kind of... Well, we're actually saying that audio outputs on the next gen. Have we had any announcements on what they are? Have Xbox said what it's going to output in?
I think it's the same, which is Dolby Atmos, which is what the Xbox does now, or at least the S and the X do.
Yeah. So, that kind of technology is going to sound amazing.
Yeah, so it's Xbox One already features Dolby Atmos and DTS:X, so it's likely the Series X will follow suit.
Yeah, I thought so.
And Mark Cerny promised that the PS5 will become the gold standard in gaming audio, and that a new 3D audio engine will deliver more immersive sound without extra hardware.
Now.
Yeah, that's a different proposition. It's their own proprietary stuff, isn't it? Which is, and I presume it's based on the same technology, but it's actually in their headphones now.
Is that the 360 reality audio?
Yes. Oh, and I presume it won't be as sophisticated as what we'll get. But in the wireless headphones I've got, you can take photographs of your ears, and it analyzes all the detail.
Sorry,
and then
just look on Ali's face then when you said you can take photographs of your ears. It was a prize picture.
So yeah, as long as you've got the right streaming service, which I think Tide, is it Tide or is it Tidal?
Tidal.
It'd be Tidal and it might be Deezer, are the two that do the actual streaming in that quality. It's the only reason I haven't tried it, because I don't subscribe to either of them. But yeah, it feels like that technology that they may be incorporating is already available in part, and then we're getting a refined, obviously game-based version.
Interesting that Sony have taken that approach rather than going with a Dolby or a DTS or something more common.
I think they probably still will do that, because I think the 3D audio is to do with, in effect, the translation of placement of stuff in the game. You're still going to need something to output it to get the best out of it, and it feels like those two standards would be the way to go. Because they've had Dolby Digital and DTS since definitely PS3. I'm trying to think if it were on the PS2. Some games were in Dolby Digital on the PS2. I think Snake Eater was. So as long as they continue that route, you should still have that option. I can't see them dropping it and having something that's unique to them. But then, admittedly, given my experience of Sony and their audio and sound and hi-fi equipment, they do have a tendency to do something for a year and then ditch it and swap to something else.
Yes, I agree. I've been down that road with him with amps and stuff.
Trying to get everything to work together can be an absolute nightmare, and you end up upgrading component after component just trying to keep up.
Yep.
Then you need your old one for the legacy equipment.
Yes. It's So I won't put it past them, but I expect it to be something quite sensible.
So, considering you've just shelled out money on a nice 4K TV in your living room, how are you feeling about 8K visuals at 120 frames per second?
I couldn't give a
Is it right that your eyes can't see past that anyway, or past 4K or something?
I think
we've talked about this on a previous episode.
I don't think so.
I know with resolutions at a particular distance you can't tell, because you did a big piece on it, Andy, quite a few years ago. Could you tell the difference between 720 and 1080? And after a certain position, you can't. But from the 8K standpoint, in fairness, what's it taking me? 6 years to get to 4K? I'm not in any rush for 8K at this stage.
So there we go. You heard it here first. Go over to Patreon and sign up to Matt's Road to 8K.
I'm more interested to see if they could get 1080 running at 120 hertz. That will be more useful than stupid resolutions. Andrew, as it stands, we're all just waiting for 4K 60 hertz, aren't we, from the next gen? And even then, that's sounding particularly likely, is it?
The news about Assassin's Creed on the Series X today sounds like it's going to be running at 4K 30.
Yeah. I think the big games, the intensive ones, aren't going to be running as we would have expected. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
And he's looking at me with disgust now because he thought I was his Series X ally, and I've just wounded him.
I know he'll stab you in the back soon as look at you, Ali. Don't trust him.
I know he would. Yeah, he loves the Game Pass.
I do love the Game Pass. Yeah,
That's just because you started playing Hitman again.
Yeah, and I'm playing Hitman again. Forza Horizon 4 is very good. Although, if I can give you one piece of advice, is don't play a lot of Forza Horizon 4 and then think you can jump straight into Dirt Rally 2.
Nope.
They don't play the same.
No.
Slightly different.
I guess with the other next-gen bits, the new Xbox One controller isn't changing much. I think there's like a little extra button for sharing. And then the PS4's going with the DualSense.
Yes, it's haptic feedback, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the thing with the PlayStation. They're very good at innovating with in terms of the rumble feedback, touchpad, haptic feedback. They're very good at innovating and changing their controllers. But the Xbox controller design is kind of a classic.
Yeah,
it just works.
The one thing I'd say is maybe when you look at it, the Xbox controller's a little bit boring and not necessarily simplistic, but it is what it is. It's got the rumble triggers and things. And the PlayStation one's got loads of awesome features. Like if you play in Division, Isaac makes me jump every time until I get used to it when he starts shouting out my controller. And like the little touch-sensitive pad. It's great, but not enough games use it. If
you want a horrific use case for the speaker in the DualShock 4 pad, you know what I'm talking about, don't you, Doctor?
Yeah, go on. I know what it
is. Zombie Army 4, Dead War.
Oh, is that do the reload noises or something, did you say?
No, when you pause the game, after a couple of minutes, or it's like a kind of a random event, isn't it? After a little while, the controller just suddenly goes, "Come and play with me."
That's brilliant.
Fucking terrifying.
It frightens the life out you first time it happens.
Oh man, I went to the toilet and I could just hear a voice going, "Come and play with me." Oh man, that freaked me out. No, and I'm out.
Like you say, that Sony are good at innovating, but they just don't. They either don't encourage developers to use it or give them the ability to use it, or I don't know.
What can you do though? Because like when you had so you added the touch bar. And there's not been many innovative uses for it, and the ones that are kind of shoehorned in. And it was the same with the Kinect. Do you remember when Microsoft went through that phase of saying every game has got to have some kind of Kinect compatibility, and they were all just.
Yeah,
I'm sorry to whoever's listening to this because I've been swearing quite a lot tonight.
The use of the new features they put on actually. You say that they're just shoehorned in. I think a lot of them are actually designed in properly, but it's only ever the first party studios that do it.
I think what I'm talking about is the broader spectrum. Yeah, the third parties that just chuck in the same old stuff as everyone else.
It's always just press a button to bring up the map. That's pretty much what it's used for. But the first party stuff has some fantastic uses for it. Codemasters use it well on F1 because it's where all your engineer chat comes from. It works really well for that.
I'm just glad that touchpad QuickTime events went away very quickly.
Yeah, what was that
They didn't drop out of the first party games though. They have used them since then. I'm sure some were in Hidden Agenda, and the ones that link to your mobile phone. That was one of those games. I forgot what they called the series of them.
I know what you mean. Yeah,
they did some in there. I'm positive. I'm sure until Dawn, anything by Supermassive.
When was the last time you fired up your VR, Doctor?
The last time. When did I last have it on?
Otherwise known as the Dust Gatherer.
January might have been. It has been a little while, but only because I haven't had anything I've fancied playing on it. I'm waiting for Vader Immortal in the summer. That's probably the next thing I will do. I'm not convinced about the Iron Man game yet.
I suppose VR is an interesting proposition though with the PS5 because if they continue to support it, actually, you could see some really, really good games
It's confirmed, isn't it? It's confirmed that it'll be compatible, and there's plenty of rumours that actually there will be the second generation VR from them as well, which they're talking about being wireless.
That'd be good.
That'd be good, yeah.
And having hand tracking as well, and sort of moving to similar controller to the Steam VR stuff, the HTC Vive. So they're talking about really stepping it on. As long as the original's compatible, I think I'd want to give it a crack, see what it's like.
It's just that it has gone quiet. From I mean, I haven't got it anyway.
It feels like it's gone quiet, but there's actually a lot being developed or being released. It just tends to be on the PC, and then you wait 6 months to a year before it makes it over to PSVR. Like the biggest one recently, Half-Life Alyx.
Yep.
I really want to play that, but it's probably never going to come to the current VR set.
It's a shame you can't budget for it to work with your PC if you had a powerful enough PC.
I'm sure there'll be a way to do it. There'll be somebody who's done it out there, won't there? But yeah, I think there is quite a lot. The stuff gets released all the time. It's just, it doesn't tend to hit the headlines anymore.
No.
But yeah, interesting to see what they do. But at least they're making it forwards compatible or backwards compatible with the next generation.
Do you guys think there'll be more cross-play in this coming generation in terms of between PlayStation and Xbox? Obviously, Call of Duty have broke down those walls quite heftily, and it worked surprisingly well.
Fortnite announced today, didn't they? Fortnite announced today. Epic announced today that Fortnite's going to be cross-play again across the new generation consoles.
Yeah, I think.
Do you think once now it's been done, that's it? It's just open the floodgates and...
Yeah, I think it will be. I think you're right. You'd have your big multiplayer shooters that are going to have to really to keep
and hopefully driving games as well. Because it'd be nice if we can do F1 and it doesn't matter whether... I presume PC is a little bit more complicated, but Xbox and PS4, it should be easily done so you can still have a race and chat.
It should be quite good because we're doing the asynchronous stuff at the moment, and whilst it's nicely competitive, it's not quite the same, is it?
No.
It's good for if we haven't actually got time to sit down together and do something that I like that aspect of it. Especially things we do that cross-platform.
For us anyway, it's having time to get everybody in. I mean, we said probably on the last recording that we were going to play Dead War on the Stadia, weren't we, to see what it was like?
I think we also said we were going to play Predator Hunting Grounds.
Yes, we did. Because we
all downloaded the demo. I
never even booted it up.
I think I got to like midnight on that Saturday and then suddenly thought, crap, we didn't do that.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's what I think they will because they've done it. And there's no reason now not to keep it open. And whilst there's different philosophies and architectures in their systems, broadly, they're still producing the same amount of power, the same quality games, the same stuff. So I don't see why they would lock it off.
In theory, it can only be good for consumers and for the companies, though, really, because you take away that crutch of, I'm kind of tied into this platform. All right, your purchases might tie you into a platform, but suddenly who you're going to play with doesn't anymore, and hopefully it encourages the companies to continue to innovate and improve the user experience to draw new people in.
Yeah, and you don't have to do it for the chat side of things. We know that, don't you? There's enough third-party apps out there now. We have our own Discord channel, which people are more than welcome to use for cross-play gaming if they're on. There are things that you can do. So it's not even that piece any longer, is it? It's purely about, can I get into the game with my friends?
Yeah. And especially with consoles, because they are fairly similar for what they're offering, that there shouldn't be too much fluctuation. When it comes to PC, that you get very disparate machines throughout the entire world. But when it's console to console, it should work a little easier than what it would do if you put PC into the fold. So like you say, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do it and just jump in an F1 2020 or 2021 or whatever it's going to be. Whether this new generation's got it cross-play or not, I don't know, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to do it. Like Dirt, that should be the first next-gen one that's got it, potentially, because it looks like that game's going to be more focused around having fun in the rally. It seems like they're doing a Forza for me. Every other one is a serious one. This one serious, but it's more about rallycross, and
it seemed to be taking it a bit back to Dirt 2, which Dirt took the rally and it was really good, and then Dirt 2 said, well, we're going to have a bit of fun with this, and chucked in the truck racing, the trophy trucks, the time trial events, a lot more rallycross, and just messing around. And then 3 came along, didn't it? It's like pulling in the hoonigan stuff.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's going a little bit back that way. But like you say, it's doing it more than Dirt 4 did, because 4 was really a rally game as well, wasn't it? Just a slightly easier one, not quite as hardcore.
Have you seen that on the new F1 game, there's like a super easy mode?
No, I haven't noticed that.
Oh, now you piqued my interest.
Yeah, so it's only offline only, but there is a mode that makes it easier to drive. So if you go off the track, it doesn't punish you as much and different things. And it's basically for people that are F1 fans, want to play the game, but don't have a wheel or aren't as possibly patient using a controller, because it's not the best to use with a controller, and it's for those users.
That's a nice idea.
Sounds like it's kind of harking back to the original. Do you remember the old Formula 1 96 games?
A little bit.
Oh, yes, but
I was 11.
Yeah, well, exactly. I think that's the kind of, because I could imagine a kid who is about that age who's just really interested in Formula 1 and loves the cars and all the racing and everything, and then gets in F1 2020, just completely donuts it the second they put their foot down around the corner, and it gives up and then plays it again.
I remember playing one that was just punishing, and it's not until recently that I've started to pick them up again. And when I say recently, like the last 5-6 years, something like that, when they got good and I had a wheel. Because until then, they're either the arcadey ones, which was the All-Stars one, or it was just ridiculously hard.
I can't remember the last one I picked up. It might have been 2015 or 2016, but it was, put the power down, and it was
2018's on Game Pass.
It was like having to learn a whole new style of racing game, and I kind of didn't have the patience all the time for it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really, really good idea, rather than just doing it through the assists, which is what they've tried to do over the last few, isn't it? That you can switch them all on, but it still leaves it quite sim-esque.
Well, hold on. How do we turn this into a motorsport racing game podcast?
It was me talking about kind of next-gen games, and
well, we've been talking about Dirt. We got there.
Jesus.
So next gen.
Yeah. All right then.
So what about the technology? What do we know about the technology inside the machines? We know a lot more about the Xbox than we do about the specifics of the PlayStation.
Oh no, I think now it might be because I've read slightly less about the Xbox. I think we probably know more about the innards of the PlayStation than we know about what it can actually do. There's been a hell of a teardown on Digital Foundry, and that interview with Mark Cerny about exactly how they built it all up and what they've done with it and what the idea is. It's basically witchcraft, I think.
Yeah, normally is. Because I know that one of the interesting factors with the Xbox is the micro SSD. I can't remember the actual name of the special port, but the memory expansion that they've got, which you can still use a USB drive for to put games on. But if you want to run, is it Series X games, or if you want to run them at a certain level, they either have to be on the internal or this expansion port?
It's a bit the same with what they said on the PS5 as well, is that you can plug in extra storage, but if you use a standard disk drive as you would now, external storage, you're best off just putting your PS4 games on it. Your PS5 won't run from that. And if you want the enhancements, you have to have it on the internal storage, which when it's only 500 gig, I am slightly concerned about space. I forget, is the Xbox Series X is the same size, isn't it? Is it 500 gig? I can't actually... say that. PS5's on an SSD.
No, it's a terabyte.
1 terabyte, isn't it? Yeah.
Is it an SSD?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an NVMe SSD.
Right. And is the PS5 500 gig, or is it a terabyte? I thought it was 500 gig.
I don't think they'd announced that yet.
I think if they put 500 gig in, that's a massive mistake, because these games are all going to have the 4K textures and probably some ray tracing stuff, and it would soon fill up.
I was sure that they said it was 500 gig, and that's because I was thinking, well, basically, that's 3 games if you like Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty. It's very limited.
The PS5 discs are like 100 gigs each, aren't they? So the optical media. No, I didn't think they'd said it. I think they specified.
I genuinely thought they had. And whilst you two talk, I'm going to fact check.
So the Xbox CPU is a 8 times Zen 2 core, which is 3.8 gigahertz.
What does that mean?
It's just your teraflops and stuff, isn't it? Well, no, teraflops is your GPU. I think it just means it's pretty quick, because for each core, you get double the amount of threads, don't you?
You're talking in a foreign language.
Right. Okay.
Basically, it's pretty speedy.
Quick. Yeah. It's got a 12 teraflop, if I can get my words out.
Did you just say teraflops?
GPU. Teraflop, yeah.
Is it 12? I thought it was 13. Mind you, that's you're reading off the spec list, aren't you? So
on Tech Radar, yeah. 16 gig RAM, which is fairly standard these days, terabyte storage, 4K Blu-ray drive, which I think Sony did confirm they're having as well.
Yes. Yeah, they did. The SSD on the PS5 is it's 820, just to make it a funny number.
That's Sony for you.
Now it's whether it's a terabyte, but then their operating system's taking a load of space, because that that happens now anyway, doesn't it? They say it's a terabyte, but no way do you get anywhere near that.
Yeah. And the interesting thing, I don't know if the PS5's doing this, but all the current Xbox One accessories are compatible on the Series X.
I haven't heard, but fingers crossed the steering wheels will be. Otherwise, I might be slightly annoyed.
Well, you could always get one of those things I've got.
Yeah, we'll have to wait for some kind of connecting box to map it over. But what do you guys think price is going to be?
500 quid.
Yeah, I was thinking around that. I can't remember how much I paid for my Xbox One day one now. I think it was about
they came in about 400, didn't they?
Did they?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know whether you guys have gathered it from various bits you've read or seen, but it seems like even from the latest Xbox stuff, and I don't know about the PlayStation side of things because I've not had a thing recently, but it seems like they're all on target for this coming holiday as well, Christmas period.
Yeah.
Even with everything that's going on, they've not gone, oh, maybe not, oh, and a bit of bum twitching, but they're just like, yeah, still on target. So that's a good thing, I guess, if they can get shipments.
Yeah, I'm thinking it'll come in at less than 500. I think they'll make them attractive.
$499.
I think it'll be around the 4 to sub 450.
Well, there's speculation about 500 for the Xbox. I think what I'd seen in terms of people guessing was about $500 for the PS5, which takes you in about 450 quid, doesn't it? And then there's rumours of a digital only Series X as well, which they think would be about £100 less.
Yeah, there's lots of speculation based on totting up the hardware components and what they think that would all cost to do, and they might be reasonable guesses, but at the same time, mass manufacture and then what the actual companies want to sell them at to try and shift them in the first place. So I think Sony learned with the PS3, don't flog it at 600 quid, because that was the launch price of those, wasn't it? And they just moved slowly.
Killed it, didn't it, really?
Well, I wouldn't say killed it, but it did not move at the right pace until they got it to... When you compare it to
how phenomenally well the 360 did.
Yeah. But then the PS4, that was 350 at launch, and that really set it off well. So you've got to find the right balance. Both of them.
Yeah, if it's too expensive, it turns people off, especially within the first 6 months to a year, where most games, not all games, but most games will be on both anyway.
And if you're looking at this holiday season, and we think about how currently the world is going and the ever impending recession that is going to hit, are you going to want to stick a really high-priced console out there and not have it sell at all because genuine people can't afford it?
Well,
there are other market factors, aren't there? Or
that's true, but these were market factors that just didn't exist when these consoles were planned and announced. And you cannot, you work in business, Matt. You can't just suddenly turn around and say, well, we're gonna sell this at a loss because the economy's taken a turn.
There's a
production value,
but at the same time,
value to these consoles.
You've got to assess your market and whether it's actually going to work for you to get you to where you want to be or not, and what levers can you pull. And with a lot of this, it can be price. If you've got enough in your first parties bringing you software revenue and your subscriptions and everything else, can you do something on your price?
Yeah, and I guess a lot of it depends on where it is or was currently pitched prior to COVID-19. Yeah. So if they pitched it at X price, obviously not released, but they're saying, right, we're selling at this price and we're going to make this much profit or this much loss until we've hit a certain target, and it's whether they can just tweak that a little bit to make it more palatable.
Yeah, but margins are going to be squeezed. Margins are going to be squeezed anyway with COVID, based on time to get things in through factories, changes in costs of distribution, shipping. Changes to retailing, and consumers will to get out there and actually purchase stuff. Do you know what I mean? And actually go out and buy something. So not just in terms of the economy, but actually physically going to a store and picking something up. So
can you imagine the queues?
Speculation. It's all just
You've got to be 2 meters apart still. Go halfway around
midnight
town.
Openings are going to be interesting, aren't they?
Yeah.
So each console comes with a big bottle of hand sanitizer.
Lube.
Don't know what they're going to do. It just something says they'd be foolish to pitch it too high, obviously at any time, but particularly with where they're going to be when it gets around to launch. And it's it's global as well. It's not just obviously what we're seeing at this point in time.
Yeah. I suppose the other proposition, if I was a marketer who had this situation going on and the potential for a new console to be coming out, I might be playing on the, you're not going out to the theatre, you're not going out to the cinema, you're not going out to, bars and clubs, and we're all a bit more socially responsible these days. Why don't you treat yourself to a new console?
You could, and then chuck in there, you're not getting your full salary.
Yeah. Have you still got some of your furlough left? We've got the console for you.
Yeah, well, it's actually where the cycling it right back around, cycling it right back around to the beginning. It's where the smart delivery sits.
Yeah.
All right, you might have to pay more for the console, but you're not going to have to pay extra for some games to play on it. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see, and it'll be interesting to see when we actually find out what these prices are going to be and the release dates. So I'm saying bad marketing guesses. It might be end of October. You guys firmly in the end of November. Do you think they'll go into December?
I'm not convinced they'll go into December. I think they'll want to lock down some sales before the last month. But I reckon second or third week in November. I've got for the 15th of November in my head.
So that's a Sunday, so that's not going to happen.
It's my brother's birthday. That's probably why I got it in my head.
I was thinking the 10th or something like that, which is, I think one of the consoles was released on a Tuesday or Wednesday last time around.
Yeah, I remember a feeling. I thought one of them was a Thursday as well. So they're usually midweek, aren't they? They're not Friday or Saturday things. So I'll say last week of October.
So finally, visually, I mean, we know what the Xbox Series X looks like. It's a
cube.
Yeah, it's basically it's like one of those. It's like one of those Apple Airport Extremes, isn't it? Aesthetically, it's a bit of a departure. I wasn't expecting that when I saw it.
No, it's different.
Yeah,
and it's very, very compact. Because I know when Digital Foundry took it apart, they said they were surprised at how, with all the airflow and stuff, it's literally just components sandwiched on top of each other and then just chuck a case over the top. But it somehow keeps it cool because they had heat guns pointing at it and all sorts.
Oh, nice.
So whatever they've done, it just works.
I was going to say, if there's one thing you want to test on a new Xbox released, it's thermal decoupling, isn't
it? Standard test now, isn't it, for everything?
But an official, unless I've missed it, the official PS5 look, there isn't one at the minute, is there?
No, all we've had is the controller, but I think, can we infer anything from that? Do you think, Matt, do you reckon it's going to have elements of white in the console?
you can infer whatever you want, can't you? I mean, I've seen so many fake PS5
that's the most
renders.
passive-aggressive podcast response I've ever heard. You can infer whatever you want.
think for yourselves. God knows. Just because the last one had a black controller and it was a black console, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It's a bit of a weird one. You sort of think they might stick just with the color scheme they've gone with for the last few years. What's the shape going to be? They've seen some weird and wonderful views of what it might be like, but actually, it's not going to be massively dissimilar in dimensions to as it is now, is it? Otherwise, people have a harder job swapping them out of their AV spaces.
Yeah, it'll be of a similar size and shape to an extent. They'll just tweak it a bit, move the blue light.
Yeah, they put the curves in if they want them, or it'll be more angular, or it might just be a brick.
It'll be a 1 foot diameter sphere.
Yeah.
Isn't that like the PS25 or something like that?
We nicknamed the Death Star.
Was it true that what I heard unless it was just vicious rumours, because there's so much rubbish.
You were so polite.
Xbox fanboys and PlayStation fanboys and stuff. But is it true that it has had heating issues?
I don't know, because it's like all these people who were suddenly experts in it.
Yeah.
And no one has even seen a machine, let alone got their hands on one.
I know, yeah. And then suddenly it's got heating issues and it's melting down. And
I don't know if there was something up with one of the dev kits or something like that, and that's where
because the thing is it could be something that the devs done themselves. Because we've had that before, haven't we? Where someone's released a game and I can't remember what it was now, but there was a game and the fan inside your console just went crazy.
Was the one that actually killed 360s?
Didn't Cooking Mama start to melt some switches or something a couple of weeks ago?
Oh, I don't know. I've not heard that.
Yeah, because it happens on mobiles fairly regularly, doesn't it? When the
I know Cullen mentioned it. I think it must be an Xbox title, because Cullen mentioned something not so long back that they put this one out and he just couldn't get past a certain bit or a loading bit because it.
No, yes, it was.
Was it just Cause 4 or something like that?
No, it was an Xbox game, and I can't remember what it was. About a year ago, wasn't it? Because he did
must be Gears of War 5.
I can't remember what it was, but you get the wrong coding in, and you can kick things off. So I don't know. They could do. They might not. Nobody's got a clue, because everything has been left to speculation. And to be honest, that's why I've kind of been ignoring an awful lot of it, because it's all. Fair, though,
yeah, but it's quite nice. It's quite nice not to know everything.
It is.
I still quite like the essence of surprise.
Yeah.
And go, ooh, I didn't know it could do that. And, I didn't know it would melt my whole TV unit. Set it on fire day one.
Weirdly, with the Xbox showcase last week, and they've shown the startup logo. Actually, I think that's really disappointing, because that's one thing I've always enjoyed for the first time when you switch a new console on, is seeing what the new logo is.
And then get a big
that away
dirty
already
update for 20 gig.
Yeah,
while we're all still in lockdown and it takes 4 days.
Wouldn't it have been awesome though if they change it now at the last minute, and when you boot up your brand new Xbox Series X, it plays the Windows 95 starter music.
I'd love that. But you're right. It's nice to be surprised. It feels a little bit with the Series X. There are going to be no surprises. Except for what the games look like. That might be quite surprising when they finally come out.
Maybe the dashboard.
But on the PlayStation, it feels like a gamble, because you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So, no idea. So that's us done with Next Gen. We did have a couple of questions from our regular Twitter followers. Do we want Northern or Southern first? Northern or Southern?
Hold on.
You've got mail.
Not Fat Man Scoop Cluckling Clan or whatever it was.
Well, you might actually get away with it.
I'm pretty sure I got that one.
Batman Scoop, Crooklyn Clan.
Yeah, I got those.
So, do you want
Fat Man Scoop, Crooklyn Clan?
Or, question from
Fat Man Scoop, Crooked Glen.
I mean, for me, it's Crooked Glen.
Yeah, it's got to be Colin.
So Crooked Glen says, next gen, is it day one or is it a wait and see?
Well, I think we've just covered that for most of us. It's day one, isn't it?
Day one for you, day one for me. Andy?
Well, I'm gonna say that no, I'm gonna be reserved and calm and pragmatic and sit back and see what the offerings are when they're finally out, and then take stock and decide which one I'm going to invest in. I'm going to say
the night before
on the actual moment of release. I'm going to be there, in a queue 2 meters from people on either side of me,
making friends.
Yeah, not touching anyone or anything.
Oh, that'd be bliss, though, wouldn't it? Just stood in a queue and nobody near you, just talking rubbish that you normally get in these midnight queues. It's like, too far away, I can't hear you, mate.
I'm genuinely conflicted though as to whether I'm really interested in the Series X because of the whole smart delivery thing, and then deep down inside somewhere I feel I might be a PlayStation fanboy, but then you look at how Matt is and it puts you off, doesn't it?
No, I think for most of us, especially me and Matt, it's day one. But again, it comes down to what the current climate is like. On the sense, putting your sensible hat on, and I think that's what it's going to come down to for a lot of gamers.
Yeah,
if they can afford it, and they want it, it'll be day one. If money's tight and they've been furloughed still, or they're not working, and we're talking about possibly more towards the hospitality side of things. Mm-hmm. People that work in that kind of sector that may be struggling until the end of the year. It's £400, £500 on a console is not going to happen.
No.
But as it stands for me, it's definitely day one.
Okay. And he does follow up with, are you excited for the Tony Hawk's remasters?
Oh, yeah. I am. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Has it got the original soundtrack as well? I can't remember.
Yes, I think it has, because that's what they're selling it on. They're not actually selling it on the remastered game. They're selling it on the soundtrack. Brilliant. But is that September? Yeah. It's like mid-late September.
Yeah, September the 4th.
Early September. So, yeah, I think I'll be there for that.
EA have done this thing this year. So basically, EA are all about the remasters and kind of sports iterations this year, aren't they? Because they had their fingers burnt by Anthem, and all they're doing now is remasters. So we've had Crysis remaster announced.
Yep.
Now, with Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 coming out, somebody at EA, please, if you're listening, get SSX Tricky out there.
Sure, I think that'll be depending on how well this sells. I think you'll be seeing that.
I hope so.
I better be. Yeah.
Did you see though that the EA I think have lost a license, because I saw on Twitter today that 2K have picked up the PGA license and they've got a golf game coming out.
All right.
Yeah, saw that on Twitter today.
I think that went a little while ago, didn't it?
Because there hasn't been anything since, was it Rory McIlroy?
Yeah, and that got delisted from the digital stores a while back. So I think that's when the license went. Yeah.
I've still got. I think I've still got access to download it, but
yeah,
if you can't buy it,
I didn't know they'd lost the license or it'd gone out elsewhere. But yeah, it's gone to 2K and they've sent out some bits and bobs today.
Yeah, because of all the big hitters. Where's PGA 2020 going to land? On Stadia.
Oh, yeah.
Finally, my investment has paid dividends.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, speaking of remasters, then the question from the other person from Saintly Stewart, he wants to know from all of us, which of these would we be happy not to see in the next generation? And he wants to know remasters, sequels, reboots, and new IPs.
Oh, what's that new IP? We don't want to see new IPs.
Yeah, I'll be perfectly honest. I saw the list and I thought, well, I'm happy to see all of them in the next generation. So there's nothing I ditch out of it.
I think
I've enjoyed the remasters. I want some new IPs. I quite like sequels.
I've enjoyed the remasters. Don't get me wrong, but I do feel that some of them are a bit of a cynical cash grab. Some of them, when they're done well, and they're games that are, genuinely quite old and not easily accessible. I know there's a lot of people saying, "Well, I've still got my PS3, I've still got PS2, I can play those games." A lot of people haven't. I haven't, for space more than anything. If I kept every single console I'd ever had, number one, I'd never play any of them.
You'd have built a house out of them.
I'd have no. There's a plan. That's how I could store all my stuff.
You don't need to wait
garage.
for your builders to come back and do your extension now.
Build a garage out of X consoles. But look, the thing for the remaster with me is, again, with the smart delivery, with if Sony can implement a similar thing, it would be nice to actually, moving forward, be able to say, I don't need to buy a remaster because I will always have the most optimized version of this game.
That'd be nice.
I think, like you, Matt, I agree. I'm happy to take anything.
Name of his sex tape.
Oof, yeah. But especially if they start doing some of the older games, like if we suddenly get a remaster of Silent Hill and things. But like Andy, I don't want to see a remaster of the current Call of Duty in 3 years' time.
I'll tell you what, the Resident Evil games are a shining example of how it should be done.
Yeah. And Final Fantasy VII, I've not played it because I have certain opinions about paying that amount of money for a game that's just been fleshed out a little bit more, and I'm, getting is it a quarter of the game? Are you even? I don't think you're even off the first disc.
Isn't it still like 50 or 60 hours worth of gameplay for that?
Yeah.
Yes, because they've fleshed out a lot more of the other bits that weren't there previously, and it looks amazing. But that's how it's kind of done well. Yeah. That is a remaster.
But those reboots, particularly in the Resident Evil's the good example, Resident Evil 2 in particular, but the reboots have been, we've had some really good ones. And you're always going to get reboots of something or other. There's none of them I wouldn't like to see. I think the remasters actually got us through a really good period in this generation where actually it probably was a bit sparse for new IPs coming through. It actually helped introduce a lot of people to older games. And I take The Last of Us as an example, the remastered version of that, because there were quite a few people went into PS4, didn't they, from Xbox, and hadn't ever played the game, and then got the opportunity to do it. And it'd be the same the other way. Yeah, you need to get to the end of it at some point. But it's that kind of situation. It gives you the opportunity to play things you haven't played before or things that you love. How many versions of Hitman Blood Money do we own between us?
Oh, well, yeah.
Lots.
Too many. As long as I don't ever have to play Killzone Shadowfall again, I don't really care.
Yeah, I think as long as the devs are a bit picky about what they are remastering and what they're bringing to the table, because the most annoying thing can be at times is they're focusing on doing a remaster and sometimes it's a hash job, and it's like, why didn't you just focus on giving me another iteration of that game in the current gen, or at least giving me a new IP or something? Like, hopefully Ubisoft might bring Splinter Cell back at some point and actually rebrand the Assassin's Creed game, because, not being funny, they're starting to not be Assassin's Creed games. They're great, but
it feels like I've really enjoyed Origins, and I got all the Assassin-y goodness from that, and I love Odyssey, but I'm not so much getting an Assassin-y vibe from that one.
No, there isn't. No. There isn't particularly, is there?
No, just because
it's a great game. I'm in it now. It's fantastic, but no, I'm missing Where's the Assassin's piece.
Did you play as Cassandra?
Of course.
Good man. She's hilarious.
It is. I'm surprisingly amused quite a lot of the time with it. It doesn't take itself too seriously, which is quite nice. So yeah, there we go. We'd actually prefer to have all sorts of different games. Hope that answers those questions.
Okay, so why don't you tweet us with your wild speculation? You can do that to @Codec Moments. We want to hear your crazy theories. If you've got some sensible speculation, then you can do that too. If you want to get involved in the discussion in a more intimate setting, then you can join our Discord. And if you click on the link that is in the description for this podcast in whatever app, website, browser you happen to use, you can get in through there. Right, well, that was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the next generation.
Yeah.
I'm getting quite excited about it now. Now it's a little bit more tangible. I just like, release dates and prices more than anything now.
Yep.
Okay, well, if you enjoyed that, get in touch, and thank you very much for listening. We'll be back soon. Bye.
Bye.
In a bizzle.
just honestly, we've been in lockdown for what, about 75 days now, and you're sat there again. Go on, chuck CDs on your roof. What are my neighbours going to think? Just out there
in your dressing gown and slippers,
tossing the greatest hits of Alison Moyet onto the.